Okay, Kelly, we're live. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry, my internet's being funny. I was going to try to just post the questions so we could read them as I'm talking about them, but I'll just have to read them because it was not working. Somehow my sound came out. So anyway, so we're talking about ethnic foods at the grocery store. I think I might be on a delay now too. Perfect. So,
well, I'll start. I went to the grocery store with my two daughters.
Foods in the grocery store.
Oh boy.
And I how old are they? Can you guys hear me now? No? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Barely.
Barely. What about now?
It's a little better. Sounds like the tractor's a little further away.
Is that better? No?
I think so.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I am on a delay, so I will apologize because I'll probably talk over your conversation. Okay, so all I heard last was Marty went kids.
We were in the ethnic aisle and we were looking at the different foods, and we were talking about you could tell who had more influence. Like as I went down the aisle, there was very little Japanese food, and there was a couple of little tiny rows of stuff that were for the Jewish community, because we had in ours it was Jewish, Asian, Hispanic, and Italian, and Hispanic and Italian were about 3/4 of the entire ethnic aisle, and then the others were very small, so you could see who had been kind of incorporated into our culture, trying to maintain some of their own cultural things, is what I kind of felt as I did that.
Was it Italian and Mexican, you said, Marty?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Italian and Mexican has aisle.
I went to the store. I live in the Central Valley. I live in the Central Valley of California, so the Hispanic culture is huge. I mean, it's massive. Now, when I consider an aisle, you walk down the middle of the aisle. On one side of one aisle is all Hispanic. It took up one side of one entire aisle. And about 3/4 of the other side was Asian, which I thought was really interesting. And then Italian was the next aisle over, and that was maybe half to a third.
Does anybody else have a different?
I went to the store earlier today, and I was shopping for some specific things, and I think I forgot about the assignment until right after I left. But from what I feel like there was only like one side of the aisle that really had the more ethnic foods, and I think the majority of it I saw was Mexican foods and then some Asian foods, and there might have been some other things, but it must have been a small portion of it, but I think that was the majority. And I thought it was interesting that it was just kind of that one little area, and I think there probably were other areas that had different ethnic foods, but the majority of it was just in one little aisle.
Yeah, mine was pretty much the same. Like when I went down the aisle, like I don't know, I'm in Rexburg, so I don't know if anyone else is here in Rexburg. But like there's just like one aisle that just has like I think just like it says Asian and then Mexican. or Hispanic food on there, and then it just has like little sections, but I don't know, like there just isn't that much. Like there's just like a little tiny designated area, and that's about it.
Mhm.
I noticed as I went around in the candy aisle, there was a lot of Swiss chocolates, Belgian chocolates, and in the meats, there were Mexican meats, a lot of like chorizo, and we had Mexican cheeses, Greek yogurts, and Swiss yogurt and Icelandic yogurt. Just as because it said to walk around the rest of the store and see what else you could find.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next question. So, what 5 foods do you think are common in the sections of? Let's break it down into like, what do you normally buy in the ethnic aisle, and how common are they in your diet, or do you see some of these ethnic foods somewhere else in the grocery store?
I went about this a little bit differently. But I was looking in the Hispanic aisle because obviously that had the greatest selection. But in that aisle, there were Hispanic cookies, Hispanic juices, flour that they use for masa, for tamales, jars and envelopes of spices and seasonings, and then canned vegetables like jalapenos and canned salsas and stuff like that. These particular exact foods are not really in our American diet, although we do have our counterparts. But the fact that there are so many specifics to the Hispanic foods available, I thought was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me?
I think that's like an interesting point. Like, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me or not. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say when it talked about the 5 foods that we use, things that I noticed that were in the ethnic aisles that we use are pasta, rice, tomatoes, salsa, and I put down spices.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marty, I'm going to ask you a question. Is there an ethnic food not in the aisle that you guys normally eat? It might be in a different aisle.
It would have been the Greek yogurt. We do a lot of Greek yogurt at my house.
Does somebody else want to share maybe something that's common in their diet?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I have a roommate, and she's become a really close friend of mine. She's Hispanic, and so there are things that I now shop for that are in the Hispanic aisle. But growing up, I am a white cracker. I never really shopped in that area, so there weren't really any of the foods from there that I really found. I mean, I think that throughout the grocery store, I think that all of the foods have some influence. I'm sure I have some noodles. I put down like coconut water and just random things like that that I have used in my diet, but not necessarily consciously.
I'm in California.
Oh, well, my ex-husband, he's actually Hispanic, and so when we were married, I had like a lot of variety, especially when like when my in-laws would come here, like they're like I don't know, again, I'm in Rexburg, but there's just like this little like shop. I can't. It's it's just over like a tiny little like outlet, but it actually has like it's little like Mexican food shop, like so you can get like a bunch of different stuff there. And so like they would like go there and like they would like try all like they would like make me all these different things. And so I just thought it was like interesting, and like when I would go visit them, they live right on the border of El Paso and Juarez. And so like I don't know, that was like a really interesting experience for me, like just experience like just having all of that because yeah, I grew up with a pretty white cracker family, and so I didn't have much of like an experience with that.
Yeah, for me, I never really have noticed that I buy things that are ethnic foods, but at my store, like the tortillas and salsa and stuff aren't with like quote unquote Mexican food. It's an end cap. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I eat a lot of tortillas and pasta and rice, and I also eat Greek yogurt and salsa. I feel like those are kind of just a staple. What I thought was interesting is if in my store, there's things like my Mexican rice isn't like with the Mexican stuff, or like I buy things in other areas like pot stickers or burritos. You know, there's not like a frozen ethnic aisle or section. They're just kind of randomly in there. But I've never really, I guess for me, I don't have a lot of Jewish or Thai or Japanese or Asian food in my diet. I don't really buy those things.
Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting here is there's a lot of prepared frozen meals, and they were Middle Eastern and Hispanic and or Asian varieties. There were both a lot of Japanese type things and Chinese food in our frozen aisle that was already prepared, and you could just microwave it, which was kind of interesting.
Does anybody have an ethnic food that's not grouped in the ethnic aisle that they normally eat?
Well, I found some stuff. Where did I go here? I found that the meat, like the carne asada for Mexican food, there's some seafood. There was some pre-shredded cheese that had to be refrigerated. So you're not going to put that, just in the general aisle. I looked in the dairy section, and there's a beverage called horchata. I'm probably not even close to pronouncing that. It's a milk and rice beverage that has to be refrigerated. I did think that it was interesting on the way out of the store. They have the 4 or 5 foot tall cooler section. You can buy bottles of soda. They had one cooler expressly dedicated to an Hispanic soda, which I thought was really interesting. I thought equally interesting that the tortilla chips that you normally eat with salsa were with the potato chips and pretzels, but the salsa was with the Hispanic food.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really interesting.
I was actually kind of wondering.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of like.
Sorry.
Wait,
I'll just talk
why don't you go,
time.
Genesee?
Yeah.
Genesee, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say I thought it was interesting while I was in there. I was kind of wondering maybe why that was. So like how you said the tortilla chips were with all the chips. I was wondering if it was just like this ethnic aisle, they have that there for convenience because a lot of people that are looking for these things are primarily Mexican or Asian, and so they are looking for these things that are specifically for them. And then there's things like prepackaged or pre-prepared frozen foods and stuff that are with everything else that is that just for convenience because a lot of people buy that and they get a lot of sales from lots of different people, or I was just kind of thinking about that while I was shopping.
I kind of felt that part of the reason that the tortilla chips and salsa can be in the chip aisle is because that's something that we've all accepted and brought, even though it was brought to us from someplace else, that's something that we have accepted and made it part of our culture also. I mean, we do chips and salsa all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. And for me, I don't have an Italian aisle. It's just the pasta aisle. It's not necessarily called Italian, and I think that's probably because most Americans eat pasta. Like it's not a. It's just part of, I think, our cuisine.
Yeah. I feel like
So I'll go to the next question. Oh, go ahead.
Well, another interesting thing I noticed was that when you looked at things like rices and jasmine rice, which are Middle Eastern, some of those things that have been kind of more readily accepted into our diets, they were in multiple aisles because the jasmine rice and all of those and Oriental rice and rice noodles were all in the ethnic aisle, but over where the flour and the rice is, they had the exact same jasmine rice, and they had with the noodles, they had rice noodles. I just thought it was just an interesting thing that things that we've accepted and that also from other places. You could just tell what is accepted by Americans.
Did you have something to say too, Chase?
Oh no, I was just gonna say that I think weirdly enough, like people like at least college students, I think, are more like willing to try different things just because like they're out there experiencing something new, and so like if they have like roommates from different places, then they're more likely to actually buy things from like these different like ethnic aisles just because they're like, oh, my roommate's from this place and they want me to try this, and so they're more kind of willing to accept it. So I don't know, that's just something that I kind of noticed just because I've had so many different roommates from so many different places. So
That's a good point too.
So, which of the factors of affecting assimilation seems to influence the food availability the most? Why do you think that it has influenced the food?
I think I kind of answered that question last time, even though I meant it then too, but it's the same as the bigger part of the population accepts that food item, and then they put it like, for instance, the jasmine rice was in 2 aisles. I probably wouldn't have gone down the ethnic aisle to pick up jasmine rice, but when I was in the regular rice aisle, there was the jasmine rice, and I like jasmine rice. I pick it up and I get jasmine rice. I had no idea that was in both, but because we accept things, I think that that's what makes it the big factor that makes it more acceptable. Or, you know what I was trying to say? Assimilation affecting it. Thank you.
Yeah. When I read this, I kind of thought in California, and I'm sure Cheryl thinks the same thing. We probably have a lot more Mexican food available to us throughout our grocery store than other people. I think that's just because of our population of Hispanic people.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I felt like the demographic of where we live definitely plays a factor into what's available.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think like, especially because the grocery stores, like they're gonna stock up on what they know, like the city population is gonna like, it's gonna buy. So if you have a bunch of different people, like then the cultural representations that are there, that's what they're going to try and cater to a lot more. And so that's why they'll incorporate some foods from India, some like Asian foods, they'll incorporate Hispanic foods. And so I just think that's how they make sure they're at least coming back so they can get what they need.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I kind of feel like we've covered that. So, which model do you think best explains the availability of ethnic foods in the grocery store? Is it cultural assimilation, structural assimilation, equalitarian pluralism, inequalitarian pluralism? You know, any of those things that we've learned in our reading.
I think it's probably some of the pluralism. When we accept each other and we accept other cultures, we're more accepting of their food. But that's what I got out of it. I'm not sure that. So pluralism is what I think is why it's there. And then as it gets more accepted, it's assimilated into our culture as well as theirs. So there's a combination.
Yeah, I thought there was also some kind of the equalitarian pluralism, just because like it represents how like the different cultures are able to come together and like be expressed together. And so I just thought that kind of played a little bit part into it too.
I think there's also a little bit of an equalitarian pluralism because it is segregated from other foods rather than dispersed through the store, which it could be. Because it's like when I lived in Asia, it's like they did have American foods, but it was integrated into the aisles instead of like separated. So like with the drinks, it's like the American sodas would still be with all the other like drinks that are common there.
So you call that, you said inequalitarian?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I said.
Because still it's like economically dependent on each other because it's a store, but there is still separation in it.
Mm-hmm.
Segregation of foods.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my husband and I were thinking about it on the way home, and maybe Kelly can speak to this too. But California is such a cultural melting pot. There's so much going on, and we got thinking about it. Our vision took us to separate aisles in the grocery store, but here in Fresno, we got thinking about it, and I actually made a list. There are individual selective markets, entire markets dedicated to Asian food, Hispanic food, Armenian, Sikh, and Hindu foods. Each of those ethnicities has their own individual store, a whole store. So if you can't find it in your big box grocery store, try checking out one of these little stores. You'll probably find what you're looking for. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I'm from Yuba City, California, and there's a big Sikh population there. And so like they're like I think there's more Sikh people there than like Hispanic people there, and like 95% of my high school was Hispanic. And so I just thought it was interesting because like I don't know, because like almost on every little corner, I don't want to call them like outlets, but that's kind of what they are, just like little groups of shops. There was at least one one store that was just like dedicated to Indian food or like Indian. There's one like they sold the it's just like a whole like all these like little shops just for like Indian. And then we had the Sikh temple there, and so I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah.
I lived in Temecula for a number of years as well, so.
Is it the same thing there, Raquel?
Well, Temecula, California, so.
But it's the same thing. I mean, you've got all the different ethnicities
there. Was
a
lot of Native Americans because we live by the reserve, but.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not like here in Rexburg, because I went down to Idaho Falls, Winco, and not as many students go there, so it's like I get like weird looks all the time, like, what is she doing here?
She got it going on, people. That's what she got.
Like little kids like stop and stare at me, or they'll like timidly like walk up to me and I'll just like wave and they'll run away back to their mom.
Please, you're kidding. You know what? Not having the discussion. Not having that discussion. Not going to do it. Good grief. Well, that's where I did my grocery shopping, Raquel, was in a Winco. So you and I've got the commonality there.
Does anybody have anything else that they maybe thought of while they were out shopping that they wanted to discuss? We pretty much covered our questions.
Well, I was telling everybody else, I want extra credit because I had to get dressed to go out and do this. I was sitting, yeah, it is, truly, seriously, don't mock me. It was painful. I'm sitting here in my pajamas and I got dressed. So I want extra credit and I'm on the record. So there we say it. Okay, I'm done now. I'm off my soapbox.
I'm just gonna say this assignment did bad things to my thighs, man. And my budget.
Don't you know the first rule of going shopping, Raquel? You don't go when you're hungry. But she did. Maybe you'll learn next time, young lady.
Never learn. Winco's like my weakness.
You want me to stop this nonsense, Kelly? Please tell me to stick a fork in this thing.
Yeah, we can be done. Thank you.
I'm going to stop broadcasting right now.